So, welcome to this last in the series about business to business sale. In this small video we will be talking about the closing of the sale. We've gone through the relating, discovering, advocating, we presented it, we've dealt with the objections. Now we actually need to close the deal. In this small video I'll be talking about 9 different ways of closing the deal. Closing the deal is actually where junior salespeople often stumble, so it's good to have these techniques at hand. It helps quite a bit. One of the first things to do or think about is asking for the order. And well, 9 out of 10 are afraid to ask for the order. Well, I'm one of them, because as soon as you ask for the order, then you risk getting a no. Remember, asking for the order prematurely does not destroy the deal. If you've dealt with the objections, if you've done what you promised, and everything is ticked off, well, do ask. Customers are expecting it. So, do we have a deal? Once in a while, as it is a little bit difficult to ask for the deal, you can also do the assumptive closure. Assumptions, well, I assume that you already have said okay for it. So instead of asking, so do we have a deal? You said, so how should I deliver? When do you need it? Should we send it to the lawyers first, or can we sign it right now? You assume that the customer has said yes. They might not actually have said it in their specific words, but you assume it, and they more or less assume it as well, and say, yeah, okay, we are ready. You could also use an alternative closure and give the customer 2 choices. Say, all right, so do you want this one or that one? It's kind of like the assumptive closure. You're saying that they do want a solution. You're just uncertain which solution it is. And purely statistically, it changes the mindset. It changes it from being a 50% chance of saying no and 50% chance of saying yes to a 33% chance of saying solution 1, 33 for solution 2, and 33 for no, which means 66% for saying yes in one way or another. So you give them their alternatives. You could also do a shared or part closure. Well, you have a big deal. You have a lot of things to cover. You say, okay, good. Let's put this aside. We'll figure this out. But can we start here? It's a little bit linked to the one we started out with, asking for the order. But it takes a little bit of the risk away from the customer perspective. They don't need to commit for everything right now, so they do a part closure. At the back of your mind, you do know if they've taken the first bite, well, they will take the rest of the cake as well. But it will lower the risk perception from the customer perspective. Okay? You can also try to push the customer. This is of course where things become a little bit dangerous. If you push too hard, they will stall and say, no, go away, we don't want this. Think about the sales guy at the market in Spain who's pushing that t-shirt on you. He's pushing. You walk away. Later on you see in the store the lady sitting and it's hanging nicely. The same t-shirt. It was actually quite nice, and you go there and buy it instead. That's the thing here. You don't want to push too hard, but sometimes you need to push a little bit. For example, well, we can only run this campaign this month, so if you wait until next month, I'll have to quote you a higher price. Or if you want it before Christmas, well, order it today, because otherwise I'll not be able to schedule it in our production. Customers do also understand things like this. They're sitting with the same issues that they're selling to their customers. You can also do the objection closing. You say, all right, this is your objection. So if I solve this, do we have a deal? Well, you've solved the problem that they ask you to solve. You've actually turned their objections against them to some extent. If they say, yeah, well, it makes it much more difficult for them to come back and say, I also have this objection, I also have that objection. Well, you take it and you move it forward. And if there's only a few objections, well, that's a strong buy signal. If they say, yeah, well, I like your solution, but the price is too high. Well, okay. If I lower the price a little bit, does that, do we then have a deal? Yeah. Then you're very, very close to getting that deal, closing that deal finally. But it's important to listen. Listen and be creative and to those around. You can also close by negotiation, and especially in your larger projects with your RFQ and RFPs and RFIs, where you have the big structure process, there is a negotiation phase at the end. You will be expected to fiddle with your proposal, both on the technical or solution side and on the price side as well. Make sure everything that you do is a give and take. We'll talk about that in a negotiation video later on. So use the product to be negotiated instead of cash. I want to lower the price. Well, what if I give you a little bit more service on top of it and we keep the price? What is it that the customer cares most about? Think about that in this negotiation situation. You can also sum things up for them. Take the disadvantages and advantages of the solution. Set up the schedule along with what argues for it, what argues against it, and you can summarize it with them and say, alright, so there's way more talking for you buying our solution than talking against it, right? Yeah, okay, we will go ahead. That was it. Thank you for following this small series about business to business sales process. Hope you have a lot of success with it out there.